Okay, the next category in our UCAT series, looking at the University Clinical Aptitude Test in the decision-making section. Thanks again to the UCAT website, link in the description. Do go and have a look at all their resources. This is where all these questions are coming from. So this one, I think, is particularly important, right, in the decision-making section. We've done syllogisms and logical puzzles. This is recognising assumptions. So recognising assumptions is essentially identifying beliefs or claims that are taken for granted as true, even without proof, and that are often necessary to make an argument or conclusion valid. This is a vital skill whether you're a medic or not, okay? This is the kind of thing that some of our media does to us an awful lot, certainly outlets with an agenda, particularly places like the Daily Mail, will state things as though they are fact, but actually is an assumption, okay? And having this ability, this critical thinking ability to go, hang on a minute, you've made an assumption there, right? This doesn't necessarily follow because of that, is a vital skill for navigating the world in 2025, right? Regardless of whether you're taking a UCAT or not, okay? So let's dive in and look at a question straight from the UCAT website, okay? And again, it's a little bit lawyery. This feels a little bit more LNAT-y rather than UCAT, but you could get this as a clinical candidate, okay? So here's the question. Should we focus more on rehabilitating offenders rather than punishing them for the crimes they commit? Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Now, any of you who've done any critical thinking will know that arguments are not all equally valid, right? Some are stronger arguments than others, okay? That's a whole other subject, which is fascinating in its own right. But let's have a look at these arguments. So we've got A, yes, crimes are often committed by people with serious personal issues. Yes, focusing on the cause of the crime will ultimately lead to a reduction in the crime. No, it doesn't matter what causes a crime is a crime. No, victims of crime need to see that justice has been done. So if we take them one at a time, right? A, yes, crimes are often committed by people with serious personal issues. Now, if we look back at the argument, should we focus more on rehabilitating offenders rather than punishing them for the crimes they commit? Well, have we said that rehabilitation is addressing personal issues? Okay, rehabilitating offenders suggests that they've committed a crime and you're going to focus on that rehabilitation around that crime. Argument A, statement A, just brings in personal issues. It's just making an assumption that there's some kind of background personal issue that's led to these crimes, which doesn't say that anywhere in the argument. So it could be true, but in some cases, but it's not there in the statement. It is an assumption, okay? B, yes, focusing on the cause of the crime will ultimately lead to a reduction in crime. So let's read it again. Should we focus more on rehabilitating offenders rather than punishing them for the crimes they commit? Well, that actually kind of does follow, doesn't it? So focusing on the cause of the crime might ultimately lead to a reduction in crime. So rehabilitation for the cause of the crime. So we are calling them offenders. They have committed a crime and we're rehabilitating those offenders. So that's a pretty strong argument. Focusing on the cause of the crime logically will then lead to a reduction in that crime. Okay, so that one is pretty strong. C, no, it doesn't matter what causes the crime, a crime is still a crime. Well, always be wary of what's called tautologies, right? Where basically you're just saying a thing is a thing. It is what it is, being a classic example. Well, what does that mean? A crime is still a crime. Is speeding the same as murder, right? I think we would argue that it isn't, okay? So that argument, doesn't matter what causes a crime is still a crime, has been discussed by philosophers for thousands of years. The whole, if a man steals a loaf of bread to feed his family, is it a crime? All that kind of stuff. It's a weak argument, okay? Just saying it is what it is, I know what I know, all that kind of stuff. They are not arguments. So that one is particularly weak, I would say. So we're probably eliminating C. D, no, victims of crime need to see that justice has been done. Well, what does seeing justice being done look like? Okay, for that one, should we focus on rehabilitating offenders rather than punishing them? Why can rehabilitation not be punishment? Why are the two mutually exclusive? Okay, this sense of justice that victims need to see, can that not be rehabilitation? Right? Is that not just for some crimes? Or is it purely incarceration? Are we assuming that we're just locking people up because that's the only punishment that there is? So that one there is not a strong argument either. So out of them, part B looks like the strongest argument. You could pick holes in all of them, right? But out of the four, B is the strongest. So here we have the mark scheme for this one. Correct response is B. A is incorrect because it doesn't describe an outcome of rehabilitation. B is correct because it's the strongest argument that deals with outcome of rehabilitation. Strongest note, not perfect. C is incorrect because it doesn't give a reason why a crime is still a crime. It's a tautology, okay? D is incorrect because it does not explain why justice could not take the form of rehabilitation. And that's how you answer the question. I would suggest further reading on this one, go and look into logical fallacy. I'll put a link in the description to some fantastic resources on looking at logical fallacy, because even if you don't end up as a doctor, you'll be a much better debater. Okay?